This is the right video if you are looking to get information about pool resurfacing if you own a plaster pool. Stay tuned till the end because what we are about to share with you in this video, you will not find it elsewhere.
Do it. Let me show you how to do it.
Welcome to our channel. In this video, we'll be sharing what we learned while getting our pool resurfaced with Florida stucco. Some people refer to it as Diamond Bright, but it's important to note that these are two different brand names, along with a few others. In Florida, these two brands are among the most common for resurfacing concrete pools. A pool surface typically lasts anywhere from 10 to 15 years, provided the pool water chemistry is well maintained. While there are many factors that affect the longevity of your plaster, everything has a lifespan. Our plaster was 15 years old, and no matter what we did, we couldn't get some stains out of the finish. In October 2024, Florida was hit by Hurricane Milton, and we noticed some effects in our area that caused our pool to look worse for wear. We found large palm tree fronds inside the pool, and overall, it was in pretty bad shape. This prompted us to start making calls to get our pool resurfaced. We finally decided to hire a contractor to resurface our pool. In this video, we'll share some valuable lessons we learned throughout the process, including how we chose the tile and pool finish. The entire project took a little over a week, mainly due to some rainy weather that delayed the work. Be sure to watch the video until the end, as we'll provide important insights about the process, along with crucial lessons on what to watch out for. If you're not careful, you might end up getting taken advantage of by your contractor. The first day of the project began with draining the pool. It's important to use a sump pump to properly drain your pool. Do not use your in-ground pump for this. Be sure to follow local environmental regulations when draining the pool water. Never drain it into a nearby lake. The best option is to drain it into your sewage line. Once the pool is drained, you must open the hydrostatic relief plugs, often called hydrostats. These plugs are usually plastered in place, but underneath the plaster, they thread into a slotted pipe that runs through the floor of the pool. Below the floor, this pipe terminates in a gravel pit beneath the pool. Hydrostatic openings are designed to allow groundwater to enter the pool, preventing the pool from being lifted out of the ground by hydrostatic pressure. This pressure can be a concern for pools in low-lying areas or places with a high water table. Hydrostatic plugs are there so you can manually open them if you need to drain the pool for cleaning or repairs. Once this step is complete, the contractor can start the resurfacing work. Our contractor began by removing all the tiles using a chipping hammer. He removed the tiles from the water line of the pool, the spa, and the steps. At this point, you also have the option to remove the entire stucco finish. However, this can add an extra $2,000 to $3,000 to the cost, so we decided against it. You might consider removing the old plaster if you have significant damage or leaks, but since we didn't have those issues, we chose to resurface over the existing plaster. Before your contractor gets started, make sure you're clear about how the work will be done. Ask for everything in writing and ensure they agree to inspect the pool for any hollow areas. It's also important that they chip away a small section around the light fixtures and jets to create space for new materials. Make sure to confirm that the contractor will be replacing any jets, drain covers, and pool light rings as part of the job. Lastly, be sure to remind the contractor that the startup process should be included in the contract. I have a dedicated video on the startup process for newly plastered pools, which I'll link in the description below. Be sure to watch it to get a better understanding of what to expect. Once all the tiles were removed, the contractor applied a special stucco-like concrete material over the old mastic. Removing the existing mastic can be quite difficult, so this material helps smooth the surface and provides a better base for installing the new tiles without any issues. This stucco layer was applied to all areas where the old tiles were removed and where the new tiles would be installed, except for the steps inside the pool. One of the most challenging parts for us was selecting the tiles. Pro tip: choose your tiles before the work begins. Otherwise, you may feel pressured by your contractor to make a quick decision. That's exactly what happened to us. Thankfully, we ended up picking a tile we were happy with, but it could have been less stressful if we had made our decision earlier. For the pool steps, make sure to choose smaller 1x1 tiles rather than the larger rectangular 2x1 tiles. The larger tiles can make it harder to get a straight, uniform look on the steps. As you can see, the tile installation is now complete, and the contractor is working on the grouting. We were a little surprised to see the grouting happening at this stage, as it could have been done later. However, we trusted our contractor, and in the end, it turned out fine. The tile installation was completed for both the pool and the spa. I kept a close eye on the process, as I noticed the contractors were taking a few shortcuts. The tile lines weren't perfectly straight, so I had to repeatedly ask them to fix it. They kept blaming the tiles for being bad. But that excuse wasn't acceptable to me. In the end, the job was completed to my satisfaction, and the tile installation was done as I wanted. After the tile installation, the contractor pressure washed the old plaster surface of the pool. At this point, you must tell the contractor to acid wash the surface. Our pool contractor wasn't planning on doing this, so we had to ask him to acid wash it. The acid wash ensures that the surface is thoroughly cleaned and ready for the plaster to bond properly. The next step is the bonding process. The contractor applies a bonding material, which is essential before applying the plaster. Make sure the bonding is applied and allowed to dry for at least 4 to 6 hours if it's sunny. Never apply bonding material when it's raining. Our contractor applied the bonding, but shortly after, it started to rain lightly. He insisted it was fine and left, but after he was gone, the rain washed off the bonding in several spots. I had to ask him to reapply the bonding the next day, even though he initially argued that it wasn't necessary. I insisted, and he came back to redo the bonding, which is a critical step. Once the bonding was correctly applied, we were ready for the final plaster day. At this point, all the tiles were installed, the old jets and drains had been removed, and the corners were chipped to make room for the new plaster. On the final day, they began mixing the Florida stucco, also known as Diamond Bright. They brought in a mixer to prepare the plaster. Be sure to ask your contractor how they plan to mix the plaster. It's important that they use a machine to mix it, and ideally, a machine to spray it as well. Do not let them mix it by hand in large drums. This is an outdated process and results in inconsistent mixtures. Machine mixing ensures the product is uniform and ready for application. Once the mixture was ready, they started applying the stucco to the pool, with multiple workers smoothing it out simultaneously. This process is very tedious and time-consuming because it has to be applied evenly and perfectly. The application took about 2 to 3 hours, but the end result was a beautiful, smooth finish. A few lessons learned during this process. Make sure your contractor covers your deck before they begin pouring the plaster. We didn't realize this beforehand, and our contractor had to pressure wash our deck to clean up the mess. Ensure the tiles are cleaned promptly. If the stucco isn't cleaned off the tiles quickly, it will harden and become almost impossible to remove. Supervise the process closely. I had to keep a close eye on the contractor to ensure the work was done properly, which was frustrating since I had to take time off work to oversee it. While you should trust your contractor, always remember the saying, trust, but verify. There were multiple times during the project when we had to correct or ask the contractor to redo parts of the job. After the plaster was applied, they acid washed the surface the same day. The acid wash helps harden the plaster and aids in the curing process. This material cures underwater over the next few months. Once the acid wash was done, we were finally able to fill the pool with water. One tip when filling your pool with water: tie a rag to the end of the hose to prevent leaving a mark on the new plaster. For the startup process, we weren't satisfied with how our contractor handled it, so we decided to take matters into our own hands. The startup is critical and must be done properly to avoid stains or other issues with the new finish. We even made a dedicated video on the startup process, which we'll link in the description below. If we had to do this project over again, we would likely hire a different contractor. It was frustrating to have to constantly supervise the work, and in hindsight, we think it would have been worth the extra effort to find a more reliable professional. We hope you found this video helpful and that you learned a few things. Feel free to leave a comment below or ask any questions.